Day of the probe into Thabo Bester's escape by the Justice and Correctional Services Portfolio Committee is currently underway. Inspecting Judge at the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services, Justice Edward Cameron, has been facing questions from members of Parliament. Athi Mtongana is there for us and she joins us for a recap in case you missed it. A particular question was put to Justice Cameron, Athi, in terms of what he thinks the repercussions should be for the Department of Correctional Services, because he not only on one or two or three instances insisted that they take the matter up and they do a follow-up, and alas.
Well, Dudu, he used the words that they should have been kicking butt on this matter around Thabo Bester, but sure, there's a lot that he has actually, spoken about this morning. In fact, members of Parliament of this portfolio committee are quite relieved by the responses that he has given what they heard from G4S yesterday, where they said as members of Parliament that the security company was avoiding taking responsibility for what transpired at the Mangaung Correctional Centre. And they are quite relieved today that Justice Cameron is actually coming out to take full responsibility. Well, not entirely full responsibility, but he's saying that he feels like he was complacent in the matter, given the fact that they had known about the results that came out from the DNA results, the DNA report on the body that was examined that was burnt at the cell 34, which was supposed to be Thabo Bester's body, but of course in August they found out as Jix that that body had actually not been Thabo Bester's body. And in fact, Dudu, I want us to listen to what he had to say with regards to pinpointing the responsibility around this debacle, and of course right at the center pointing fingers to G4S.
The problem was that there were intersecting investigations. They were grinding slowly. In hindsight, those investigations should have been done with dispatch, with alacrity, and that's what we were trying to encourage. But at the same time, I think the incredulity attending this, everyone was guarding their own flanks. It was hard to believe what had happened. I think that was a drag on all the investigations. And again, it might be an easy target, as Ms. Breitenbach said yesterday to the Integriton people. One doesn't want to choose. But I think at the core of the foot dragging was G4S. When we saw Mr. Renzo Smith in his office in Centurion in February or late January, they'd done nothing. They thought that they could get away with dismissing 2 or 3 of the lower personnel, the medium level management personnel.
Just a correction there, Dudu. I said cell 34 as opposed to cell 35. But again, another issue that was touched on today is the issue of the DNA reports, which I mentioned quite earlier on. And quite surprisingly, the presentation by Jix today shows that the South African police knew about the DNA results, which pointed out to the fact that that was not Thabo Bester's body in that cell 35. And so they then said to Jix that this issue should not be made public because they need more time as the South African police to investigate this matter. So there's also this notion that SAPS was just trying to hide this matter, as well as, of course, G4S, which has often been accused of trying to conceal the escape of Thabo Bester from the Correctional Services Centre. But I'd like us to listen to Justice Cameron pointing out to the fact that they actually made everyone in this trajectory about the DNA reports, about the fact that the body was not Thabo Bester's body.
They knew long beforehand, as your question implies, Honourable Mr. Engelbrecht, long before, but were closing their eyes to it. We have our lead, our head of investigations, Mr. Leonard de Souza, sitting just behind me. I can't accurately tell you now when we first formally informed them. Mr. Renzo Smith, who is the head of operations for G4S in not just Africa but in the Middle East, he expressed surprise when we met him very early in February or late in January. Surprised about everything we told him. And we were surprised at his surprise. It seemed to us completely inappropriate.
Another very important element to what has been said today, Dudu, is the fact that Judge Cameron has conceded to the fact that Thabo Bester was, open quote, a powerful figure inside the Correctional Services facility. This came at the back of a question that was asked by an ANC MP, wherein she made claims that there was apparently a lot of money on top of Thabo Bester's bed, as well as, of course, that authorized laptop that he was using for studying purposes. And so when he responded, he said, indeed, through their investigations as JICs, they found that Thabo Bester was indeed a powerful figure inside the Correctional Services facility, and that he was actually making a lot of money while he was incarcerated. I'd also like us to listen to what he had to say insofar as, of course, the issue related to when the last time Dr. Nandi Pamakudumane visited Thabo Bester, because initially they had said it was in April in 2022, but then they came back again to correct that, saying that the last recorded visit by Dr. Nandi Pamakudumane was actually in 2021, and there were fears that also some of the other visits were not logged onto the system.
Do you know when the last time the notorious doctor visited the prison, the correctional center?
It was very shortly before the escape, if I'm right. Mr. Leonard D'Souza and Mr. Takadu will quickly pass the answer to me.
I can pause for that so they can pass that answer.
Thank you, Chair, honorable members, IJ and CEO. According to the reports that we received from G4S, the last visit of Dr. Nandi Pa, it was around April 2022.
There was apparently a planned visit by Dr. Nandi Pamakudumane to visit Thabo Bester on Valentine's Day, and Justice Cameron told us today that that planned visit was subsequently cancelled. So there's also, like I said, concerns of how they log onto the system the visits of the people that actually get into the Correctional Services facility. Many of the MPs raising concern about that, and also pointing to yesterday when the MMC management told the Portfolio Committee that they rely on human beings to actually capture the people that get into the facility, and that if there's an error, it is basically a human error and not a machine-related error, because it relies on the people, the staff, the personnel that is there to actually log the visits onto the system.
Athi, Mtongana, thank you very much for that update.